Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a truth that has shaped the destiny of every man and woman who has ever dared to dream. Fear is the destroyer of hope, the assassin of ambition, and the silent thief that robs us of life's greatest opportunities. You were not born with fear. No child enters this world afraid to live. Fear is a learned disease, and like all diseases of the mind, it can be cured. You see, fear is nothing more than a state of mind, and what the mind can create, the mind can also destroy. Today, I will not teach you how to manage fear. I will teach you how to obliterate it. You will learn not how to cope with fear, but how to command it to leave permanently. Because until fear is driven out of your heart, your potential will never know its true power. So sit tall, open your mind, and prepare your spirit. Because when this speech ends, the old you, the one chained by hesitation and doubt, will be gone, and in its place will stand a force this world cannot stop. Fear is a learned behavior, not a natural state. At birth, every human enters the world with just two instinctive fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. These are survival-based reflexes embedded in our biology. All other fears, whether it's the fear of failure, rejection, criticism, poverty, loss, or even death, are acquired through experience, influence, and repetition. That means they are not permanent. They are not facts. They are habits of thought. And what is learned can be unlearned. From our earliest years, we are conditioned by the words and emotions of those around us. A child touches something and is scolded harshly. That child begins to associate exploration with punishment. Later in school, we are taught to follow rules, avoid mistakes, and fear being wrong. We learn to seek approval and avoid standing out. Fear becomes a tool of control by parents, teachers, bosses, media, and society itself. It embeds itself in our thinking subtly until we stop questioning it. It wears disguises, caution, humility, realism. But beneath each mask is the same thief, stealing our boldness, robbing our potential. Consider this: if fear were natural, it would not be so different from person to person. One man trembles at the thought of public speaking, while another takes the stage with joy. One woman fears starting her business, while another risks everything to follow her vision. The difference is not in their abilities, but in their conditioning. Each has accepted a different belief. That belief creates a pattern of thought. That pattern creates a reaction, and that reaction becomes a prison or a path to freedom. The power of fear lies in our acceptance of it as truth. But fear is rarely based on truth. It is based on imagination, negative imagination. We project worst-case scenarios into the future, then behave as if they are already real. The mind believes what it repeats. And if we repeat fear, we live in it. If we repeat courage, we begin to act from it. That is why the first step in eliminating fear is to recognize it as something that was taught to you, not something that defines you. When you realize that fear was installed in your mind like a program, you begin to see that you have the authority to uninstall it. You begin to question the voices that told you, you can't, you shouldn't, you'll fail. You realize that fear is often inherited from the limitations of others. But those limitations are not your destiny. They are opinions, not facts. They are reflections of someone else's experience, not predictions of your own. Fear only survives in darkness, in the shadows of unexamined beliefs and unquestioned thoughts. The moment you shine the light of awareness on it, its power begins to fade. You are not your fear. You are the awareness that sees it. Once you stop identifying with fear, you can observe it, challenge it, and ultimately dismantle it. Clarity of purpose dissolves fear. When the mind is uncertain, fear fills the vacuum. But when you possess a definite purpose, a reason so compelling that it stirs your soul, fear has no room to thrive. Fear feeds on confusion, doubt, and hesitation. It grows stronger when you do not know what you want or why you want it. But the moment you define your purpose with precision and passion, your thoughts begin to organize around it. Energy that was once scattered by worry becomes focused like a laser. In that focus, fear begins to dissolve. A person with no purpose is easily swayed by every obstacle, every opinion, every passing emotion. But a person with purpose becomes resilient. Challenges no longer appear as threats, they appear as tests. Discomfort no longer signals danger, it signals growth. The difference is not in the external world, it is in the internal clarity. A clear purpose gives meaning to struggle. It gives weight to action. It makes sacrifice feel like progress, not punishment. When you do not know what you are aiming for, every setback feels like failure. But when your purpose is clear, setbacks become feedback. You do not interpret them as signs to stop, but as adjustments to continue. This shift in perception removes fear's grip, because fear often comes from misinterpreting the unknown. But when your vision is fixed, even the unknown becomes a path forward, not a reason to retreat. Purpose is not just about goals. It is about alignment. It is about living in harmony with something bigger than the daily grind. When you wake up each day knowing that your actions are aligned with your deeper values, your sense of fear diminishes. Why? Because your inner world is no longer in conflict. Fear thrives in internal conflict, when part of you wants to move forward and another part wants to hold back. But when your purpose becomes the central guiding force in your life, the parts begin to unite. That unity creates momentum, and momentum crushes fear. Think of the most courageous acts in history. They were not born of fearlessness. They were born of purpose. The soldier who runs toward danger, the mother who protects her child, the leader who stands against injustice. They all feel fear, but their purpose overrides it. Their mission becomes larger than their anxiety. They are not free from fear. They are led by something greater. Clarity creates confidence, not because it removes all risks, but because it makes the risks worth taking. When you are clear on your why, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop hesitating. You stop seeking permission. You start acting. You start speaking. You start living. That shift alone weakens fear's control. To remove fear, you must stop focusing on what you're afraid of and start focusing on what you're fighting for. You must replace vague wishes with defined intentions. You must turn dreams into decisions. Because fear does not stand a chance against a mind that knows exactly where it is going and refuses to turn back. Decision is the antidote to doubt and hesitation. Where indecision rules, fear multiplies. The longer you delay a choice, the louder your doubts become. The mind starts to loop in uncertainty, imagining every possible failure, every negative outcome, every worst-case scenario. Indecision opens the door for fear to enter, and once it enters, it invites its friends confusion, procrastination, anxiety, and paralysis. But the moment you make a firm decision, you interrupt that cycle. You break the pattern. You take back control. Most people are not held back by lack of ability. They are held back by their inability to decide. They wait, they wonder, they analyze, they second-guess. And in that waiting, they lose power. Opportunity shrinks in the presence of hesitation. Life rewards the decisive, not always because they're right, but because they move. Motion creates momentum, and momentum builds clarity as you go. But when you refuse to decide, you stagnate. And stagnation is fear's playground. Every great achievement starts with a decision, not with complete information, not with perfect timing. Just a decision, a line drawn in the sand. A mental shift that says, this is the direction I'm going, and I will figure it out as I move. You don't need to know every detail before you begin. You just need to commit. When you commit, you access a new level of power. The universe, circumstances, and even your own subconscious begin to align around that decision. Fear often disguises itself as logic. It tells you to wait until you're ready, until you know more, until you feel more confident. But that is a trap, because you don't become confident first and then decide. You decide first, and confidence grows through action. Action proves to your mind that fear is not in control. Action sends a signal to your nervous system that you are safe to move forward, and that signal weakens the fear response. Hesitation feeds the illusion that you are being careful, but in reality, it often means you're being controlled. Controlled by fear of judgment, controlled by fear of loss, controlled by fear of the unknown. But decision cuts through all of that. Decision says, I may not know everything, but I know enough to start. That alone breaks fear's spell. Every time you make a decision and follow through, you strengthen your self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of a fearless life. You no longer wait for guarantees. You no longer seek approval. You begin to trust your instincts, your vision, and your resilience. You begin to build a pattern of boldness, one decision at a time. You will never be free from fear by thinking your way out of it. You will only be free when you act in spite of it. And action begins with decision. It does not matter how small the decision is. What matters is that you choose, that you take ownership, that you stop sitting in limbo and step into the driver's seat of your life. Faith and fear cannot occupy the same space. One must always give way to the other. They are opposing forces within the mind. One builds, the other breaks. One uplifts, the other suppresses. When faith enters, fear diminishes. When fear takes hold, faith vanishes. This is not just spiritual poetry. It is a psychological reality. The human mind can only focus on one dominant emotional state at a time. You are either operating from belief or from doubt. You are either moving forward with inner certainty or retreating in silent hesitation. Faith is not blind. Faith is focused. It is the ability to believe in something you cannot yet see but know to be possible. It is trust in your ability, in your vision, and in the unseen forces that support those who act with conviction. It is the quiet power that allows a person to keep going when there is no evidence, no applause, and no guarantee. Only the inner knowing that there is something worth fighting for. When that kind of faith is active, fear loses its voice. Fear, on the other hand, is belief in the worst. It is a misuse of imagination. It is faith in failure, faith in rejection, faith in your inadequacy. And the more you feed fear, the more convincing it becomes. You begin to create internal evidence to support it. You remember every mistake, every setback, every time you fell short. You build a case against yourself. And the more you believe it, the more fear grows. But that belief is a choice. And so is the choice to reverse it. You cannot simply remove fear. You must replace it. And the only thing strong enough to replace fear is faith. Faith in your purpose. Faith in your growth. Faith in the process. This faith does not require a complete absence of fear. It only requires that you stop letting fear drive your decisions. Every act of courage is rooted in faith, not in the absence of fear, but in the presence of something stronger. Every day you are feeding either fear or faith. With your thoughts, with your words, with your focus. What you dwell on expands. If you constantly focus on what could go wrong, your fear will rule you. If you begin to focus on what could go right, your faith will rise. This is not wishful thinking, it is mental training. It is the discipline of choosing belief over doubt again and again until belief becomes your new default. Your inner world determines your outer actions. When faith governs your mind, you show up differently. You speak with more confidence. You take more risk. You recover faster from failure. You no longer operate from desperation, but from conviction. You attract opportunities instead of chasing security. People respond to your energy because it reflects certainty, and certainty is magnetic. Faith communicates power without words. It is felt. It is recognized. It is followed. Repetition of courage builds mental immunity. Just like the body strengthens its defenses through repeated exposure and adaptation, the mind builds resilience through repeated acts of courage. Courage is not a one-time event. It is a habit formed by consistent action in the face of fear. Every time you choose to do something that makes you uncomfortable, every time you lean into the edge of fear and act anyway, you are rewiring your brain. You are teaching it that fear is not a stop sign, but a signal to grow. The first time you do something that scares you, it feels overwhelming. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral, and every part of you wants to retreat. But you push through. You speak up. You take the step, and something shifts. You survive. You prove to yourself that fear's predictions were false. That moment leaves an imprint. The next time you face a similar fear, your mind recalls that success. The fear is still there, but it's quieter. You've weakened its hold. This is how mental immunity is built, not through theory, not through avoidance, but through exposure and movement. Just like muscles grow through resistance, mental strength grows through challenge. And the more you engage with your fear instead of avoiding it, the more desensitized you become to its control. Fear begins to lose credibility. It becomes background noise instead of a barrier. Courage is not about being fearless. It's about choosing boldness repeatedly until it becomes second nature. The person who appears confident didn't start that way. They simply acted brave so many times that it became part of their identity. Repetition shapes identity. If you act afraid every time you're challenged, you train yourself to believe that you are fragile. But if you act courageously, no matter how small the act, you reinforce the idea that you are capable, resourceful, and powerful. You don't need to make giant leaps to build courage. Small, repeated steps are often more powerful. Speak up in a meeting. Make that phone call. Share your idea. Say no when it's hard. Say yes when it scares you. Every small act adds to your courage bank, and that bank starts to pay dividends. Over time, situations that once triggered anxiety now feel manageable. Your comfort zone expands, and with it your freedom grows. Repetition also builds trust. When you show up for yourself again and again, you start to believe in your ability to handle discomfort. That self-trust becomes a shield. You stop waiting for the fear to disappear because you know you can carry it and still act. This changes everything. Fear may still whisper, but it no longer commands. You've heard its voice too many times, and you've proven it wrong too often. What used to be a wall now becomes a stepping stone. What used to intimidate you now excites you. You build this immunity not in a day, but day by day. With each repetition, your courage compounds. The fear doesn't vanish, but its power fades. and in its place grows something stronger, unshakable confidence rooted in experience. Action kills fear more effectively than thought alone. While contemplation can provide insight, it is action that dismantles fear's grip. Fear thrives in the realm of the mind, feeding on imagined scenarios and potential failures. But when you step into action, you confront fear directly, stripping it of its power. Consider the moments when fear held you back. Before a presentation, a difficult conversation, or a significant life change, the anticipation often breeds more fear than the event itself. Yet, once you act, the fear diminishes, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and clarity. This transformation occurs because action provides evidence against the narrative's fear constructs. Repeated actions against fear build resilience. Each time you face a fear-inducing situation and act regardless, you reinforce your capability to overcome. This process is akin to building a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Over time, situations that once paralyzed you become manageable, even routine. Moreover, action fosters momentum. Taking the first step, no matter how small, propels you forward, making subsequent actions easier. This momentum is crucial in breaking the cycle of inaction that fear perpetuates. By continuously moving, you prevent fear from regaining its foothold. YouTube and Nembi 11, it's essential to recognize that waiting for fear to subside before acting is a fallacy. Fear often only recedes in the face of action. Therefore, embracing action as a tool against fear is not just effective, it's necessary. Through consistent action, you not only confront fear, but also redefine your relationship with it, transforming it from a barrier into a catalyst for growth. 111G, Hopschool YouTube, Kamawatch Vikuyilazi Fayum Sorcerer Chapt, Com TBE Afrain, powerful inspirational speeches for success.